So it's reprogramming the subconscious to understand the affliction that I'm currently having.
Yeah. And then a question that should be answered, on the other hand, is how is this for me? Because sometimes a situation is for you and you see that there's some external benefit in that situation. When you really think about it, reflect on it, you find it.
Hello, my fellow humans, and welcome to the Multiverse Technology Podcast. Today, I'm thrilled to have Regina Huber. Regina is a multicultural transformational leadership and freedom coach, international speaker, and author behind Transform Your Performance. Regina is dedicated to empowering people to step into their fullest potential. Regina, welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you so much, Justin. It was an awesome introduction. If I just
Thank you.
may replace one word
Yes,
that I
please.
always replace,
Okay, go for it.
empowering people. I do not pretend to empower people because the power is already inside of them. So I prefer actually to say I coach them or I guide them. These are the words that I use. So I just wanted to
Okay.
say this because I'm usually very adamant about the empower words.
I think about empowerment. I think that the power is inside you, but you have to find someone to help you bring it out of you.
Absolutely. You know what? But because I get that, right? And I agree
Yeah.
with you. And at the same time, I always really like to dissect words
Intriguing.
probably because I have studied several different languages. And so I naturally always think, oh, where does that word come from? What's the origin of this word? And to me, empower means to put power inside of someone. And that's why.
Okay.
So, you know, it's nitpicking and whatnot.
How dare you? Come on. I like to learn from people. We all have different perspectives on stuff. We all see things differently.
Yeah,
I wouldn't call it nitpicking. You just have a way you like to do things, you know? And that is absolutely fine. That's what we're on here to do, to change the people's way they think about things. So yes, that was a good way to start off.
I invite you to challenge my words as we move along
Oh,
too.
challenge accepted. We're
I'm
gonna be doing this
totally
all
open
day.
to it.
Challenge accepted. If you could please kind of let our audience know a little bit about your journey, what you've been up to, and how you're helping change other people's lives.
I have lived a quite eclectic life so far on several different continents in quite a few countries. And as you said before, I've worked in four languages. I speak 5.5, but I work in four. And this has really been very enriching to me personally, but also professionally. It allows me as a coach to really get people more easily, I believe. It's opened up my horizons. It's relatively easy for me to understand where people are coming from when they come from different cultures, different backgrounds, and so on, because I have practiced this adaptability while also at the same time always trying to stay true to myself as I was moving around on the planet, right? It's very important to me to not lose my essence, of course, and I definitely recommend that to other people too, because sometimes we think we think adaptability means to let go of who we are, and that's not really true because that makes us inauthentic, right? So I've been a business owner in Argentina, Brazil, and the US so far. Before that, had leadership roles at the Boston Consulting Group, a global consulting firm, also in several different countries. I helped them open 2 offices, namely in Lisbon, Portugal, and Sao Paulo, Brazil. And and I grew up in Germany on a small farm in a tiny village of 9 houses at the time. So that's me going back chronologically in time instead of the other way around, just to change it up a little bit.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I really like that you've been across cultures because I know leadership and coaching and non-empowerment is different across different cultures of people because we all see things differently. Especially like I'm so used to like growing up here in America, how we do things this way. But I forget when you go to other countries, people think, say, and do things other ways. So I'm curious, what are some commonalities in that coaching in the different countries you've experienced? Like, what do all the humans have in common, but they have all of the, what are some things that are different?
Yeah. So humans have in common that they are all different, as as you just hinted. They also are all connected, and we often forget what that really means, that we are all one and all connected. In Africa, in some African countries, I should say, because there are lots of African countries, it's not the same everywhere. But in some countries I've traveled to, they call this Ubuntu, and it's this oneness that we always talk about, but we constantly forget about at the same time. So that is definitely something. And then also, of course, we all want to be liked, we all want to be loved, we all want to be connected, we are social beings. So that's why, in my opinion, humanizing the workplace uh, and teams is so important in leadership, right? So we could go into how does leadership look different or the same across countries, which is
Ooh,
actually one of my main areas. And I believe that while leadership doesn't look the same everywhere, because we definitely have local differences because of culture and all these elements that influence us, authenticity is universal, right? So heart-centered leadership is something leading from the heart that works everywhere because of what I said about humans wanting to be recognized, to be connected with other humans, right?
yeah.
And also what's really important is that we all want to belong somewhere, right? And sometimes we confuse this or with having to fit in. And that's not really what it is. It's about finding your crowd. That's what I think it is about, and not about fitting in, because it's more like, okay, where can I show up as who I truly am? And where don't I feel weird showing up like this because people might actually reject me, right? So, of course, yes, we do deal with rejection in our lives, and there's nothing wrong about this. It's just about finding your club, so to speak, where you feel where you feel good. I mean, usually most of us have a family. Not everybody feels really at home with their family. So sometimes they
That
want to
is
find that
true.
somewhere else, right?
Yeah, I feel that one really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm lucky in that sense. I've always really been able to rely on my family, but not everybody can. So these are some of the things that I see that really are valid everywhere. Also, what's really important is as we move around in the world is to look at cultures and do this with discernment, whether it's your own culture or some other culture, because not everything in a culture is valuable. Right. And again, what seems valuable to you might be different to what seems valuable to me. So I have the freedom as a human being to pick and choose what is for me, what's not for me. What do I like in this culture? What do I maybe not like so much? So I think it's not about just saying, "Oh, this is crap." This is not what we're doing when we are moving around in the world or traveling. It's just looking, observing, and discerning.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. You know, I feel like a lot of times as human beings, regardless of where we always like find stuff and then we're like, oh, well, this has to work to me. I have to shape and mold myself to this. And like this way or no way. Everyone else is doing it. Why can't I? Or why shouldn't I? And I love how you said we forget that as human beings, we can shape and mold ourselves. And I like using the word tribe. So we have to find our tribe, the people we communicate and connect with the best. And sometimes you have to move around a few times. People get kind of stuck and they're like, oh no, it's okay. I guess this works. Stop guessing.
Yeah, and the same is true for networking, by the way. When I first moved to New York City, I did not have a network. I had to build a brand new network in a new city where I knew hardly anyone. And the few people I knew were constantly traveling and super busy. So I had to build a network from scratch while figuring out what my next business would be in New York City. How would all my eclectic experience on several continents as a business owner in Argentina and Brazil, but with completely different businesses, brick and mortar businesses, how would all that and my leadership roles, how would that fit together into something meaningful that I could offer to people for money, and that would be useful to them, that would be valuable to them while also being fun to me, right? That's also very
Yeah.
important. So when I was networking the first few times in New York City, I mean, I remember once clearly, I went home crying, Justin, because it was so painful. I didn't know how to phrase my message yet. I didn't even know what my business was exactly going to look like, so it was hard to talk about it. I had been speaking Spanish and Portuguese for about 7 years without speaking that much English for a while. So I was out of practice too. And I went to some places that were not all too friendly, you know? Until I found that tribe where I could actually feel safer and test my message with people who would just be curious and open and actually help me shape it over time instead of just saying, oh, this is crap, you know? So I think that's really important in every single context to find those people. I have met so many people over my lifetime in so many places, Justin, but I have very few close friends because I'm very picky when it comes to who I spend my time with outside of business networking and outside of having conversations for podcasts and all these beautiful things, which I also love. But then, in the evening, yes, I go dancing. Of course, there's a lot of people. I go to my dance classes. I'm not friends with every single person there, and it doesn't matter. But then when it comes to those conversations, I want them to be meaningful. I want them to be substantial.
So true. I feel that. All your experience of meeting people and interacting with them, and you're telling me that it still can be scary or frustrating to go find a new tribe of people to talk with. That's tricky. That kind of speaks volumes to a lot of us because we all kind of deal with that. I know myself, it's scary, it's frustrating going to a meeting or even getting up the power to be like, okay, I'm going to go out the house and go to meet people. I'm like, I could find a million other things to do. But I love how you said too, it's important to who you have around you. I'm that same way. I'm very picky. I've gotten more picky as I've gotten older about who I surround myself with. Don't you want to be around people that they're flowing in the same direction, want the same things, having the same similar lifestyle, because some people can really drag you down and some people don't know what they want out of life, and you have a clear direction.
Right. And you don't want to be with people who are the typical victims because, it can be quite contagious.
That is true.
You want to be around people who actually don't say, oh, why is this happening to me again? Or why me? Because what's much better for us, as we have now learned, you and me, Justin, is to ask a different question, maybe in those situations. For example, how is this for me? What now? How can it get any better than this? Right? What else is possible from here? So it's just easier to do that when we're surrounded by people who have that same spirit and mindset. When we are surrounded by people who constantly drag themselves and others down because they have that need, because they feel down, so they want to see others down.
Your
So
inevitable
that's not
downfall.
helpful.
It's not. You inevitably just kind of fall with them. Now, I've always said the phrase, it's not happening to me, but it's happening for me.
Right.
That small little reframe can really help me remove from that victim mentality. I feel like at some point of our lives, we've all been there, but some of us learn to eventually grow out of it and learn different frameworks and mindsets to kind of get out of that and go where we need to go with life.
Yeah, I mean, Justin, frankly, when I moved to New York City, I'd just gone through an experience with a fraudulent business partner that had cost me my self-esteem.
Ooh,
And I was in that victim mode for a good while until I noticed that it wouldn't take me anywhere. I could not get out of my deep hole if I continued that way. So I had to make that decision to really step out of victim mode and into a more self-empowering mindset. So self-empowering, here I use the word
like that.
empowering, see?
How
Self-empowering
dare
mind.
you?
Now that's because it's self-empowering.
I see what you did there. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, no, totally. And so, and that was also one of the reasons why I felt sometimes so, yeah, shitty even when I went to those networking events in New York City, because at that time I didn't feel confident at all. My self-esteem had just been destroyed. I had been devastated a few months earlier. I was still cleaning up the mess of a brick and mortar business in Brazil, where it's harder to close a business than to open one. So
Wow.
this was not an easy task, right? So I was still dealing with all of that for a good year while I was already in New York City, traveling back and forth, trying to build something new. And also at the same time, building up my confidence step by step again. And that's also when I actually decided a little later than that, but later I decided to write my first book, Speak Up, Stand Out, and Shine, because I had to come up with some crutches, some techniques and tools that I could use in those situations that made me feel a bit better and more confident and yeah, just like I even wanted to go and show up there. So I put those tools into my first book, Speak Up, Stand Out, and Shine, later, because I figured they could help other people as well, also for public speaking situations and such, right?
Could you share some frameworks from that book that could help other people being in those situations?
Yeah, well, there are techniques that help us physically, mentally, and energetically prepare for speaking situations. For example, to tap into one's inner power. As I said before, we all have that power inside of us. We sometimes just feel disconnected from it, right? So we want to reconnect with it. We can do this mentally, but we can also do it actually energetically. And it's one of my favorite exercises because I can do this very quickly. So just sit or stand and focus on your solar plexus area. And that's where most people find their personal power most easily. So as you do that, you breathe into this area. You could even also imagine bringing up energy through your legs, all the way through your body to this area, breathing into it, and then bringing this energy out through your head, top of your head, and surrounding yourself with it. I've said this now very quickly, but if you do this slowly first and practice it a few times, because as you know, what you focus on expands. So as you focus on
Sure.
your inner power energy, it will
Yes.
expand. And it will also enhance your perceived presence, by the way. So it's not just about your inner confidence. It's also about how other people perceive you and whether they hear you more easily, whether they see you more easily in a meeting. And it helps people speak up in meetings too, by the way. So that's just one of many examples. And there's also an NLP tool in there where you can literally trigger a feeling of confidence with a gesture. That requires a little bit of preparation. There are so many different ways.
You mentioned solar plexus. Some of us not familiar with that term. Could you explain that, please?
Yeah, the solar plexus area is where your stomach is, more or less, in that area, right? That's where we often feel a little bit stuck, a little bit tender. Why? Because our stuck emotions tend to just get stuck in that place, right? They're not digested. So once we actually are able to digest our emotions, they are no longer stuck there. But that's one of the reasons why it often feels like that, a little bit tense. But it's also where that area where most people can most easily access that inner power.
And I feel like everything is always in the gut, they say. It always starts in the stomach. And I've been learning that more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you have a headache. There's something going on with your gut or your solar plex. It's
yeah, so
interesting.
the gut is all a little bit lower, really, right? So
Okay.
most of the gut, the solar plexus is a little bit more, well, for the ladies, it would be around the bra line, right? And it's just more like in the stomach and liver area, a little bit further out.
Okay. Very intense.
Absolutely.
I want to ask you, we were talking about the empowering term earlier, and then you mentioned self-empowering. So I'm curious about the self-empowerment and by mindset isn't enough, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Mindset, we touched on it before, right? It has
Yeah.
to do with, okay, are we really talking to ourselves in a way that serves us? We all have like anywhere around 70,000 thoughts a day and about,
That's it?
yeah, right? And over 95% or so is usually the same as the day before of the same nature.
So
So
frustrating.
we better, watch out. But of course, that's a really hard task. I mean, who has the time to monitor 70,000 thoughts? And how would you do that? You would need at least another 70,000 thoughts to do that, right? So, so there are other ways though, because we always say, oh, observe your thoughts, but yes, and it's not always really so productive because I don't even know what my next thought is going to be. Do you?
Well, cheese. Hmm.
Right? So we don't even know. Now, what we can do is we can work with our beliefs because they are connected to our thoughts. And of course, again, over 95% of our behavior is driven by our subconscious programming. That's again a sign that yes, it's useful to look into those. And it's also tricky because they're subconscious. They are unconscious. We can get to them through observation of certain behaviors of ours, through what we often call patterns and other people call sometimes reflections, and see, okay, what's something recurring? And how does that point me to a certain type of programming or conditioning, right? And then go from there. We can also muscle test our beliefs, by the way. You can easily learn muscle testing with a YouTube video. There are lots of those, and there's several different ways of muscle testing. Holistic healing modalities use that too. And of course, holistic healing is never only about the body, it's about the mind, it's about everything, right? And so this is that part. You can also work with a practitioner, of course, who knows how to get to your subconscious beliefs and how to help you release them or transmute them and replace them with what we sometimes call downloads of more beneficial ones. So these are some methods. And then, of course, our emotions. So I don't only talk
Emotions.
about mindset. I talk about emotion set. I talk about energy set. I talk about heart set because they
Yes.
all belong together. And emotions are something that we oftentimes neglect. I talked about stuck emotions before. Stuck emotions are blockers. They can block your progress. They can block your freedom, right? They can block your success. Whatever.
How do we know if we have those? Do I have them? Like,
That's the thing. We often think I don't have stuck emotions. I don't really, we're so used to not feeling our emotions because we were brought up that way. the adults around us didn't feel safe expressing their emotions. So they didn't feel safe with us expressing our emotions. And oftentimes our emotions were suppressed by adults, don't
Yeah.
cry, or shut up, or can't be angry well, no, because you depend on these people. They give you the food. You live in their house. If you speak up, maybe that's not a good idea sometimes, So you keep it to yourself and you swallow it, and that's how these emotions get stuck.
It's
A
a hard pill
trauma,
to swallow.
right? And that's actually what a trauma is, a stuck emotion. A trauma isn't always dramatic. A trauma isn't always drama. It's sometimes the opposite of drama. It's that suppression of an emotion. And that then comes up in the shape of recurring situations in your life where something wants your attention. And we don't think of it like that, do we? We always think we have to fix stuff externally, but your inner world creates your outer world. You've heard that before, right?
Yes.
And that is a very important piece of it, and we forget about it. We talk about limiting beliefs so much in business specifically, but not so much about the emotions, because people shy away from talking about emotions. They think they have nothing to do in business, which is completely wrong. We are emotional beings.
That's the problem with business. Not enough emotion, I feel. We're just
Yeah,
so
and
robotic and zombified.
yeah. And it's not about putting all your stories on the table. That's not what that is. It's about being able to feel your emotions. You don't have to cry at the office necessarily, but I mean, there might
I'd
be,
say that's with other human beings, you know?
yeah, but there might be an instance where you do. Yeah, why not? I mean, but I'm not saying go to the office and cry all day. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying allow yourself to feel your emotions. If you feel like you have sadness inside of you, for example, allow yourself that moment when you're with yourself, maybe, and see what needs to be transmuted and dissolved. And you can do this by using a way of breathing, for example, breathing through it until you feel it literally dissolve in your body, because your emotions are also very intensely connected with your body sensations. Nothing separate. It's all the same thing, right? We are humans. It's not just the body, what we are or who we are. So I think that's another part. And then, of course, I also talk about heart set, because I always say heart and mind are better together. And especially in business, we really need more leaders who dare to lead from the heart. It has
Yeah, we
so
do.
many benefits: leading with compassion, leading with intuition, which is in your heart. Intuition is highly underrated in business. It's a very precious gift. Well, typically women have it a little bit more evolved than men, but I'm saying typically. So just, very carefully, because it really depends on each individual. And it's underrated, unfortunately. So we have also forgotten how to use it. We are educated out of it, right? Literally.
Yeah.
Just like we're educated out of our dreams at school.
I always tell people that we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And we're so far
Yeah.
away from our spirituality of who we actually are as human beings. It's
Yes. Yes. A lot of people say that. You could also say your consciousness having a human experience, or even you are the experience. I mean, if you really think about it, if your consciousness. So
yeah.
again, it's no, it seems like a tiny little difference, but it's just interesting to think
Just
about.
broke my
It's
brain.
not that one is not true and the other is true. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's
Yeah.
interesting to think about it in that way, right?
I like
Yeah.
how you word it, because the way you word things and you move those words around reminds me of how people think about, for example, like quantum physics. It's a way of thinking. And it's a mindset you have to understand the terms and the frameworks and the philosophies. But you move the words around, you can understand them in a different way. So that kind of reminds me of that.
Right. Science is asking questions. That's what
Yeah.
science is. So the more you experiment also with language, the more perspectives you open up and the more opportunities you open up, the more possibilities you can now see. Right. And I'm always all about opening up more possibilities because we have limitless possibilities. We always have a
Me
choice,
too.
not one choice of two things as we learn in school. No, there's not just two solutions. There are limitless solutions. We just need to relearn this.
I love that because I've actually been thinking about that lately, reading a couple of books because there's ways we learn things and we get stuck in that way, but there's so many options and ways to do things that we're doing ourselves a disservice. And we forget about the power of choice so much. People just kind of take choice for granted, it seems like, oh, I had to do this, but you made a choice to do that. Oh no, I just had to, but you didn't have to. You could pick between choices. If you forget about that word choice, how powerful it is, you know?
Right. I mean, if you say I have to, then you're literally giving your power away, right? You can't
Yeah.
really give it away, but it's like you're disconnecting from it.
Hey, my fellow humans, sorry to interrupt your video, but if you're looking for more ways to protect and empower your healthcare practice, we would love to help. At ITCMD, our mission is to simplify IT, boost security, and support your compliance journey with a human touch so you can focus on caring for your patients. Want to see how easy IT and cybersecurity can be? Schedule a free consult or check out our resources at iteecmd.net. Let's build a safer, stronger future together. Okay, bye. Yeah, I love having this conversation with you because this is kind of what I've been trying to do with this podcast to have these type of conversations, help people understand when you're building business or you're working with your family or you're being a leader, it's important to have these concepts so you know what it is to be human because you're working with other humans. You're not machines, but we're trying to connect with people. And to do that, you have to have this conscious understanding of the love, the compassion, the self awareness, because those people you're connecting with have the same thing in them, but you may help them understand how to use those tools inside them to get what you both are aspiring to do or be or become.
Absolutely. You said that really beautifully. And true freedom, and don't we all want freedom, right? True
What is
freedom
freedom?
starts with choosing your options and choosing and being aware of that possibility and choosing your response to a certain situation. And so your response ability, right? Ability to respond. That is also really
Ooh,
important. That's what
I like it.
responsibility really means. And it doesn't mean you have to do this and do
Wait,
that.
can you repeat that one more time? Because even I don't, I'm understanding that, but I need to hear that again.
Yeah. So I think what I said, I'm trying to remember, is that, true freedom starts with realizing that being aware that you have choices, that you have limitless choices indeed, although you might not always be able to see them all at once, right? And also that you have the ability to respond. So responsibility is actually the ability to respond.
Never heard that before. That's actually really cool.
And it's not some obligation, as oftentimes we think responsibility is. That's not really what it is. It's the ability to respond, as the word says, right? This
Yes,
actually gives you freedom.
it does. I love that because some of us are so stuck in that, well, this is how it is, this is how it's done, this is how it has to be. But you having that ability to respond, and if you don't respond thinking that you can't, you have a limiting belief that is there and limiting you from responding. So I gathered from that.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah,
That's
and
powerful. Very
yeah,
powerful.
and really integrating this, right?
I'm a human being. I work in this business, or else I'm trying to lead people. How can I integrate this into the way I show up, not only for myself, but for the other people that I'm working with? How can I help them self empower with these types of tools and understandings and ways of thinking?
Well, the first step is self-awareness. It's not done in one day, though. It's a practice.
I only have 30 minutes. Come on.
So,
I get you.
yeah, so you practice self-awareness, right? You observe yourself, not to judge yourself, which doesn't really help, but to see, okay, what is valuable, what's my identity? And can I let go maybe of some old roles and identities? Do they really serve me or not? Then also, how do others perceive my behavior? Maybe I could ask them. Maybe I could get some feedback, request feedback proactively, especially from your team and your peers. And then learn in that way. And also look at what we have been talking about before, your beliefs, your thoughts. What are your prevailing thoughts? What are your prevailing emotions as you move through your day? Where could it be useful to work a little bit, to enhance your power, your inner power, to enhance how you show up in business, especially as a leader, so that you can show up still authentically, because it's, when you let go of identities that you took on over time, that's actually getting closer to who you are in your essence, at your core, right? It's creating space for who you are in your essence. And it's not so much about who you are becoming. I don't really love that word. Again, words, right, Justin? So it's more like chipping away
Killing me.
layers. And here, the unlearning piece is often more important than the learning piece, and it's also harder. But here's the thing. Yes, of course, it's great to also add on skills and to enhance our talents over time and all of that. But when you really get to who you truly are, when you get to know yourself, it's easier to get to know others. When you know what your unique brilliance is, what your superpowers are, how to use your vulnerability in a way that it actually is useful in leadership, how to use your curiosity as an asset. That's when you bring this to other people automatically, to your team, and simply by how you show up.
That's so powerful. I feel that right now 'cause I'm kind of going through that myself. And I didn't know how the hell to do it. I just started doing it, and it just started showing up. I started getting clarity over time by, like you said, being curious. I like how you mentioned identity. What you just said about identity kind of challenge a little bit about what I just learned about identity. And a lot of us have a hard time with to understand the word identity. We latch on to things that have served us in the past, but no longer serving us, but we stay with that for too long. We don't understand or know how to even grasp the idea of letting go of an identity to become, or not using the word becoming, to, I guess, move into the new identity that helps us become who we need to be. Is that we're becoming, but that's what I just learned.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. But we know what you mean, of course. I'm just, really being very exact here with the language I want to
yeah,
use, but that's exactly what it is, right? So you described it beautifully. You just let go of what no longer serves you. And then
that's so
also,
hard.
sorry?
It's so hard sometimes,
Yeah.
though. It's like you want to let go of it. You think you have let go of it. Maybe did I? Am I tippy-toeing around it? Am I still the same person? It's just sometimes there's just something in there that's not clicking, or you're not getting. I don't know what it is. Like for me, I'm using myself for example. There's a few identities that no longer serve me, but they're still kind of like there. There's a little essence of them still there, and it's frustrating. I'm not
Well,
that person, but I'm like, ah,
well,
ah.
so what's not helpful there is, Justin, is to judge yourself. That's not,
Hard not to. I do that a lot.
yeah, yeah. And we do that a lot. Most of
A
us do that.
lot.
Now, judging yourself actually keeps you more stuck, because then you tell yourself that you're actually, that there's something wrong with you, and there is nothing wrong
Yeah.
with you, actually. But that's what you tell yourself, right? When everyone goes through that type of evolution, and sometimes some people never do, but that's a
Yeah.
different story.
I, I've
But I'm
learned that now.
assuming most people who are listening to this, or everyone listening to this, wants to actually have that growth in their lives. And
Yeah.
we must recognize that discomfort sometimes, or often signals growth. It's not the failure in the process. It's just like, yes, you're a bit uncomfortable here because it's just you're in the midst of it, and it's
Yeah.
an opportunity. Everything is somehow for us, as you said before, right? And so see it as that opportunity for growth and for self-observation, not to judge yourself again, because that is counterproductive. It just chips away your confidence, your self-esteem, your self-belief. So no, not that.
That's it.
Compassion. Just as we said, we need compassion in the leadership of others. We need it with ourselves.
That is like one of the hardest things sometimes. Like we can easily be compassionate with others, but when it comes to ourselves, we're like, who the hell do you think you are to ourselves,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's hard, but like you were saying earlier, you're kind of in that in between letting go, but you're on the way to becoming something new, a new identity. But it's so new, like unsure sometimes what tools that I have inside me to use to really get fully immersed in that new identity without being bad to myself, without being rude and disrespectful to myself.
First of all, always remember there's nothing wrong with you. Nothing. Not one little bit. That's
All
something super important to remember. And then, of course, yes, there are external tools. You mentioned internal tools that you have inside of you. There are many more, of course. If you find yourself judging, or when you find yourself judging yourself, then remember that it's not helpful. What can you do to support yourself? Maybe ask a question. Some people call those quantum questions, or I sometimes use
for that
what I
too.
call self-empowering what if questions or whatnot. There are questions these are questions that are not to be answered, by the way, but they help you because they help your subconscious direct its attention somewhere else. And they could go something like, how can it get any better than this? Or what else is possible for me now? And they don't need an answer. And you can ask those questions every single day, 1,000 times if you want. It will help you, I promise.
So it's reprogramming the subconscious to understand the affliction that I'm currently having.
Yeah. And then a question that should be answered, on the other hand, is, how is this for me? Because sometimes a situation is for you and you see that there's some external benefit in that situation. When you really think about it, reflect on it, you find it, right? For example, right? Sometimes people they don't sell well because actually they also, or no, let me give you a different example. Sometimes people have both a rejection of money and an attachment to money. So they want more money. And by the way, wanting is also an expression of scarcity. So they want more money because they don't have it. But on the other hand, they reject it subconsciously. Most of the time, we don't do these things consciously. But when you really think about it and reflect on it, you notice, because then I might have to manage it, or I might lose it, or I might whatnot. So oftentimes there's a fear involved somewhere.
Are you inside my brain right now? I'm like thinking about that. I'm like, I feel that. It touches home a little bit.
Right? So we all have those really nonsensical things going on in our
Sounds
subconscious
ludicrous.
mind,
Like,
programming, right? So really sitting down with that and reflecting on this and being very honest with yourself can actually help you get through those first barriers. with anything. I just use the example of money because,
Yeah,
well, everybody understands that, right? So, and a lot of people have that
they do.
what
I
they
can
call
feel that.
problem or issue, which it really isn't. It's just a situation. That's another tool I'm giving you here. Just consider whatever challenge or whatever adversity you would usually call that a situation or an experience.
I love that.
Neutralize it
Very
because
powerful.
that actually allows you to do more with it than I have to solve a problem. That already limits me. That is already a limiting thought because now I'm not really looking at solutions. I'm just looking at, oh, the problem. My focus is different.
Find myself there a lot actually looking at the problem, not really the solution. But I
Right.
have noticed over the time I've been doing a lot of work on myself that's been shifting. Not as fast as I want it to, but I have noticing the shift and the differences, and it's going slower than I would like it to. But at the same time, in my subconscious, I'm remembering that I'm building a strong foundation by going slow, and it speeds up as understand more. But it's like I want it now. Come on, I want to be there, but there's nowhere to be. I
Yeah,
have to remember.
exactly. Yeah. Again, compassion. Be gentle with yourself. And then also, I had this other thought before. Let me bring it back. Yes, I got it. Yeah. So if you call yourself a problem solver, then you will create more problems for yourself. It's what it is. So
What? I actually see
I'm
that.
convinced of that. You could disagree. I'm convinced of that because it's also an identity that you're creating.
Damn, because you said that because like I do cybersecurity and I do IT work. So I always thought of myself as like, I'm great. I solve problems. I'll figure it out. I'll find a way.
Yeah.
And the way I've kind of
What about I
identified.
create solutions?
And I'm working on actually that mindset. That actually has been brought up to me before in terms of that, finding solutions.
And I know people will say that because we have those things that are entrained in our vocabulary, in
They're
our mind, right?
deep
That vocabulary
down
that
ingrained.
is, yeah, that because we have grown up with this, it's actually done on purpose to limit us. Okay. So
Feel
in
that.
school and blah, blah, blah. We don't need to talk about all the details, but even the English language, it has that in itself already. So we want to be very mindful in how we use it. It's even in the grammar. Okay, we cannot just rewrite the grammar so easily. That requires a lot of
But
a
we
lot
can
of time
rewrite
and
our
whatnot.
story.
But at least where we can use the language differently and people still will understand us, that's where we want to do it. So yes, people will maybe ask you, "Oh, can you solve this problem for me?" You don't have to educate them necessarily, but oh,
Now listen here, buddy.
I don't know. No, but thinking to yourself, yeah, I'm going to find a solution.
You know, what you just said about how deeply ingrained into our minds it is from the things we've learned and how we've been taught, how we've been raised, that it's taken a lot of work to really understand the things that I have to unlearn and be moved from my skill set, I guess you could say, and implement the new things that really help me be where I want to be and where I want to go to help other people. I gotta help myself first.
Right.
Self empowerment, like you were saying.
Exactly. And then, of course, yes, you can work with a professional, a coach, a practitioner of sorts,
Should.
a mentor. It depends on what you want to do. There are quite a few options. You can also pick up a book and read and educate yourself, and then try and do it yourself. I mean, that might involve a little bit of time to find the right content that's right for you. It has to resonate also. There are different alleys we can walk on and different paths. So in different methodologies, I have studied quite a few methodologies. Not every methodology is right for everybody.
That is so true. I love how you said that because, I feel that there comes a time in everyone's life if they're trying to achieve or change something or not seeing the result they would like, you should work with someone else who's done that thing, who's been there, who's walked that road before you. And it's taken me a long time to really analyze that and understand the concept of that statement, to really reach out and find someone that you resonate with, that you can work with. I've worked with a lot of different coaches. I've said this before. A lot of them just haven't gotten me where I want to, or they want me to do their program where they are, not where I am. And they didn't understand that, and that's a hard thing.
That happens a lot, a lot.
Oh,
So I don't do business coaching, right? Because it's not what I do. I don't do business coaching. I do leadership coaching, transformational coaching. So it's a combination of leadership and transformational coaching and transformational leadership coaching. and and now I also talk about freedom coaching because I think that's a really, really important element in it. The freedom coaching can be done separately. It doesn't always have to be for people who consider themselves leaders, although we're all the leaders of our own lives, right? So we can
we
always focus
are.
on leading ourselves, leading our
Yes.
lives. This is also what my more recent book is about, by the way, living my freaking amazing life. Create the life that's perfect for you anywhere in the world is a subtitle. And that's what I wrote it for, to inspire people to lead their own lives. There are also leadership lessons after each chapter, almost each chapter, because I learned those leadership lessons as I moved along with those experiences and adventures that I have lived. And I wanted to share them so that the book is most meaningful. It's not just for, I didn't only write it for entertainment purposes, right? Although it is quite entertaining, I have to say.
Lovely.
So, it's an inspirational book. It's in a way an educational book and definitely also entertainment. But it's a fun book to read, I think.
Well, all those things you talked about, they do pour over into business, your personal life. And that's kind of what I've been trying to do with this podcast, is talk to people like yourselves who understand these concepts on a human level of how to do that work on yourself that we also really need to do and should value more. That pours over into your business, pours over into how you show up, into your family, how you present yourself. It all pours over into that. Been trying to combine these together and let people know there's more out there than just going to work every day, waking up to your kids and your family, but actually being there, actually showing up, actually being present. And you do that work and work with people like yourselves, you can be such more of a powerful human being. We all have that inside of us to be so powerful, but we don't allow ourselves to really present, seeing the moment presenting to us to become that person or that identity.
You said the word allow.
Allow.
Allowance is a really important word, right?
I did a lot of work in therapy to get to using these words like that. Yeah. Gina, I want to thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. It's been such a blast with you. I feel like I just keep talking, but I don't have extra hours right now.
Right.
If people want to reach out to you and they want to find your book, let them know how they can reach out to you. And then we'll also put links in the show notes as well.
Thank you. Yes, my website is transformyourperformance.com. There's everything on there in one central place, transformyourperformance.com. I'm on several social media. You'll find them all there. There's also actually another link, which I think I gave you, which is transformyourperformance.com/social links, which has all the links. The books are on Amazon. They're also on my website if you don't find them on Amazon for any reason, although you should. By the way, also the newest book is also available in Portuguese if you fancy reading in Portuguese. Yeah, and that's about it.
Thank you so much for sharing your journey and all this with our audience today. We appreciate you coming on here today, Regina. You have such a vast knowledge. I just want to pick your brain more.
Sure. I had so much fun. And I do
And
hope that you listeners, our listeners, now they are listeners.
yes, our listeners, our audience, our humans.
Yes, exactly. Human beings, not human doings, right? So take
Which
time.
leads me to my last question for you of the day. Are you ready?
Yes.
What does it mean to you to be a human being?
Well, first of all, it is a human being and not a human doing. And sometimes we forget that. So we do, and we forget to be. And then actually, as I said earlier or hinted to earlier, in my understanding, I am consciousness, as are you. And as such, we are connected and we are consciousness in a human body, but of course, this consciousness is not limited to the human body, of course.
I love how you said that. That was so very well said. Thank you. We really limit ourselves so much. There's so many limiting beliefs we have in our lives. And like, as I've gone through this journey, I've seen so many in myself. I'm like, what? What? But I didn't think that way, but somehow I am thinking that way. And it just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
how we do that.
yeah, we create our own reality. So what reality are we creating? I ask myself all the time that if I didn't really want to create this with my conscious mind, why did I create this now? So then that's again not judging, and I know we're out of time, so I'm giving it short, but it's
No worries.
last
I
idea.
enjoy this.
So again, not judging, but just analyzing and say, okay, where could this come from so that I don't create this again if I don't want to.
The stories that we tell ourselves sometimes are not always true.
Oh, nope.
Thank you
Okay.
so much,
Thank
Regina,
you.
so much for coming on here. I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
I've had so much fun. Thanks.